I never thought my Tuesday morning would start with 3 police cruisers surrounding my driveway, while my HOA president stood in the middle of the street wearing nothing but a bathrobe and fuzzy slippers, screaming that I had stolen her Rolls-Royce. The best part was that she didn't even own a Rolls-Royce. The worst part was that she had called 911 claiming grand theft auto while I was simply backing my own car out of my garage to grab coffee. My name is David Lawson, and I moved to Silverdale Gardens in Arizona 6 months ago after inheriting a substantial fortune from my late Aunt Margaret. Along with the money came her prized possession, a 2023 Rolls-Royce Ghost in pristine midnight blue. I'm a software engineer who works from home, and honestly, I drive my Honda Civic more than the Rolls. The luxury car mostly sits in my garage, coming out only for special occasions or when I need to attend business meetings downtown. Enter Patricia Hawthorne, our HOA president and self-proclaimed neighborhood watchdog. Patricia ran the Silverdale Gardens HOA like her personal kingdom. She was a real estate agent who spent more time monitoring her neighbors than selling houses. From the moment I moved in, she made it clear that she didn't approve of me. First, it was complaints about my garbage cans being 3 in too far from the curb. Then it was the shade of white I used to repaint my shutters, which he claimed was eggshell when the approved shade was ivory. The real trouble started when Patricia first saw my Rolls-Royce. I had taken it out one Sunday afternoon to visit my mother for her birthday. Patricia was standing in her driveway with her clipboard doing what she called her weekly property assessment rounds. When she saw me pull into my garage with the Rolls, her jaw literally dropped. I could see the gears turning in her head as she scribbled furiously on her notepad. The next morning, I found the first letter taped to my door. It read, "Dear Mr. Lawson, it has come to our attention that you are housing an excessively luxurious vehicle on the premises. This creates an atmosphere of economic disparity that makes other residents uncomfortable. Please consider storing this vehicle elsewhere to maintain neighborhood harmony. Sincerely, the HOA Board." I knew Patricia had written it herself because she was the only board member who used purple ink. Over the next few weeks, the harassment escalated. Patricia would walk her ancient chihuahua named Princess past my house at least 8 times a day, always slowing down when she passed my garage. She started taking photos of my property from every angle. One morning, I caught her trying to peer through the small window in my garage door while standing on a lawn chair she had dragged from her yard. Then came the rumors. Patricia started, telling neighbors that my Rolls-Royce was probably stolen. When that didn't stick, she claimed it was a fake, a kit car I had assembled in my garage. She told anyone who would listen that I was running some kind of illegal luxury car rental business from my home. She even suggested to Mr. Thompson next door that I might be involved in international car smuggling with a concerned whisper that made him avoid eye contact with me for weeks. The situation reached absurd levels when Patricia started leaving passive-aggressive notes about property values and the importance of maintaining visual consistency in the neighborhood. She organized a special HOA meeting specifically to discuss what she called the luxury vehicle crisis affecting Silverdale Gardens. Only 3 people showed up, and 2 of them thought she had called the meeting about installing new stop signs. Everything came to a head on that fateful Tuesday morning. I had an important meeting with a potential client downtown. So, I decided to take the Rolls-Royce to make a good impression. As I opened my garage door at 8:30 a.m., I noticed Patricia standing across the street with her phone out, clearly recording me. She was wearing her pink bathrobe and had her hair in curlers, obviously having rushed out when she heard my garage door opening. As I backed out slowly, checking my mirrors carefully, Patricia suddenly sprinted into the street with a speed I didn't know she possessed. She started waving her arms frantically and shouting, "Stop, thief!" at the top of her lungs. Before I could even process what was happening, she had her phone to her ear, dialing 911. I could hear her screaming into the phone as I sat there in my driveway, completely bewildered. She shrieked that someone was stealing her Rolls-Royce, right now, that it was being taken from her garage this very second, and that they needed to send units immediately before the thief escaped. She gave them my address, describing me as a suspicious male in his 30s wearing a business suit who had clearly broken into her home. Within 7 minutes, 3 police cars arrived with lights flashing. Officers approached my vehicle with hands on their weapons, ordering me to step out slowly with my hands visible. Patricia stood behind them, pointing dramatically and yelling, "That's some officer!" He took it right from my garage while claiming she had just won the car in a charity auction, but hadn't picked it up yet. I remained calm as I explained to the officers, that this was my vehicle inherited from my aunt, and that I had all the documentation to prove it. I pulled up the registration on my phone, showed them the insurance papers in my glove compartment, and even had the original purchase receipt that my aunt had kept in a folder. The car was registered to me at this exact address. The lead officer, Sergeant Williams, turned to Patricia with a tired expression and asked her a simple question. He said, "Ma'am, if this is your Rolls-Royce, can you tell me the vehicle identification number?" Patricia's face went through several shades of red before she stammered that she didn't have it memorized because the car was so new to her. When he asked for any documentation proving ownership, she claimed it was all digital and her phone had suddenly died. The officers ran my license and the vehicle identification number, confirming everything I had told them. Sergeant Williams then informed Patricia that filing a false police report was a serious crime. She tried to backtrack, claiming it was all a misunderstanding, that she thought the car looked exactly like one she was planning to buy, and that the stress of being HOA president had been affecting her judgment lately. But the damage was done. The entire incident had been witnessed by at least 15 neighbors who had come out to watch the commotion. Several of them had recorded Patricia's meltdown on their phones, including her false 911 call. Mr. Gregory from 2 houses down had even started a live stream on social media that got over 3,000 views before the police left. I decided to press charges for false reporting and harassment. When the prosecutor's office looked into Patricia's history, they discovered this wasn't her first rodeo. She had previously called 911 on a neighbor for suspicious gardening activities, which turned out to be them planting tomatoes. She had also reported another resident for operating an illegal daycare when they were just babysitting their grandchildren. The district attorney decided to make an example of Patricia. She was charged with misuse of emergency services, filing a false police report, and harassment. The case moved quickly through the system because Patricia, in her arrogance, decided to represent herself rather than hire a lawyer. She showed up to court with a 150-page binder documenting what she called my pattern of disruptive luxury that she insisted justified her actions. The judge was not amused. During the trial, Patricia tried to argue that she was protecting the neighborhood from what she termed economic terrorism. She presented a PowerPoint that included 73 photos of my Rolls-Royce taken from various angles and distances, some clearly taken while trespassing on my property. She had even created graphs showing the negative correlation between luxury vehicles and property values using data she admitted she had made up herself. The prosecutor played the 911 recording where Patricia clearly stated multiple times that I was stealing her car from her garage. When asked under oath if she had ever owned a Rolls-Royce, she finally admitted she had not. When asked why she claimed it was being stolen from her garage, she said she meant the collective garage of the neighborhood, as if Silverdale Gardens was some kind of automotive commune. Meanwhile, the HOA board held an emergency meeting to address Patricia's behavior. 47 residents showed up, the highest attendance in the neighborhood's history. One by one, neighbors stood up to share their own stories of Patricia's overreach. Mrs. Jensen talked about being fined for having curtains that were too cheerful. Mr. Park described how Patricia had measured his grass with a ruler every morning, for a month, issuing violations when it exceeded 3 in. The vote to remove Patricia from her position was unanimous 52-0. Even her husband, Richard, abstained from voting, and when asked if he wanted to say anything in her defense, he simply shook his head and muttered something about needing to talk to a divorce attorney. Patricia tried to filibuster the meeting. with a prepared speech about the dangers of unchecked luxury, but the board cut her microphone after 5 minutes. The criminal trial concluded 2 weeks later. The judge found Patricia guilty on all charges. She was sentenced to pay $15,000 in fines for misuse of emergency services and false reporting. Additionally, she was ordered to complete 100 hours of community service, specifically at the local police department's call center, where she would learn firsthand about the importance of real emergencies. She was also placed on probation for 2 years, during which any similar incidents would result in jail time. Patricia's real estate license was suspended for 6 months due to the criminal conviction which effectively destroyed her business. Her brokerage dropped her immediately, citing reputational damage. The local real estate association issued a formal censure, and her face became a meme in online real estate groups as an example of what not to do as an agent. But the cherry on top came when the new HOA board, led by the mild-mannered Mr. Chen, who had been secretly documenting Patricia's violations of HOA bylaws for years, voted to fine her $12,000 for her past abuse of power. They had found evidence that she had been issuing invalid fines and pocketing the money instead of putting it in the HOA treasury. When Patricia received the combined bills for $27,000 in fines and legal fees, plus the notice of her removal from the HOA board, she stood in her doorway and let out a scream that could be heard 3 blocks away. Mr. Gregory caught it on his doorbell camera, and it became the most watched video in the Silverdale Gardens Facebook group, with residents commenting champagne emojis and finally justice served underneath. She put her house on the market the next day, listing it for $50,000, below market value just to get out quickly.